Good morning, students. In the last class, we have completed our How do organisms reproduce chapter. Let us discuss the exercises which are present at the end of the chapter. There are some questions that are given. Okay. First question. Asexual reproduction takes place through budding in amoeba, yeast, plasmodium, leishmania. Asexual reproduction takes place through budding in yeast. In remaining organisms, amoeba, leishmania by normal binary fission, and in plasmodium by multiple fission, asexual reproduction is carried out. Next, second question. Which of the following is not a part of the female reproductive system in human beings? The female reproductive system has got a pair of ovaries, a pair of fallopian tubes, a uterus. So here ovary, uterus, fallopian tube are there, and vas deferens is the part of the male reproductive system. So vas deferens is not a part of the female reproductive system. Third question. The anther contains sepals, ovules, carpel, pollen grains. Sepals and carpel, they are the parts of the flower. Ovules are present inside the ovary. And anther, it is part of the stamen in which pollen grains are present. So, the anther contains what? Pollen grains. Fourth question. What are the advantages of sexual reproduction over asexual reproduction? So, basically sexual reproduction was evolved among the living organisms, in order to produce the offspring which will have more number of beneficial variations. But more number of beneficial variations cannot be found by the normal asexual mode of reproduction. It is possible only by sexual mode of reproduction. So, first one is more number of beneficial variations. With more number of beneficial variations, what is going to be possible? There will be more survival advantage in especially adverse conditions. There is more survival advantage in adverse conditions. Next, what is the basic thing that is responsible for evolution? Variation. By asexual mode of reproduction, number of variations is less, whereas by sexual mode of reproduction, the number of variations is more or is very high. So, there is faster rate of evolution by sexual mode of reproduction. These are the advantages of sexual reproduction over asexual reproduction. Next, what are the functions performed by the testis in human beings? How much complexity. Testis produces male germ cells or sperms, and it secretes testosterone hormone. Sperms are the cells that are involved in the reproduction process. Testosterone is the hormone which is responsible for the production of sperms in sufficient quantity and which is responsible for the development of secondary sexual characteristics and for the reproductive maturity in the males or in the boys. Sixth question. Why does menstruation occur? When egg is not fertilized, menstruation occurs because the nutritive-rich uterine wall is not going to be utilized as there is no embryo in the uterus. Once the egg cell is released, before the egg cell releases itself, uterus prepares itself in order to receive the fertilized egg, in the expectation that it may receive the fertilized egg. If it receives the fertilized egg, it must provide nutrients to that fertilized egg or growing embryo. In order to provide the nutrients to the growing embryo, the uterine wall is richly supplied with a lot of nutrients and rich blood supply. When egg is not fertilized, all this preparation is going to become a waste. And if it is preserved for the next month, it causes infection. So that when the egg is not fertilized, this entire preparation of the uterine wall gradually starts getting shedding. This shedding of this blood and mucosa from the uterine wall in a gradual manner, since the uterus has not received any fertilized egg, is known as menstruation. When egg is not fertilized, menstruation occurs. Okay. 7th question. Draw a labeled diagram of the longitudinal section of a flower. This is the longitudinal section of a flower. Okay. In page number 134, it is there in your textbook. Figure 8.7. Right, in which you can see bottom sepals, green colored one, and brightly colored red colored one. They are petals. And next inside you can see the center. There is a pistil which is having ovaries, tail and stigma. Then in between petals and the pistil there are stamen which are having filament and anther in it. Okay, this is the longitudinal section of a flower. All of you try to draw this one. Okay, along with the longitudinal section of a flower, all of you try to draw. Not try to draw, you must draw. Figure 8.8, germination of a pollen on stigma. This diagram is very, very important in examination point of view. Try to draw it as many times as you can, not a single time, because many times this question has been asked. Okay, in even for 3 marks or for 5 marks also. So all of you please draw it. Right. Next, 8th question. What are the different methods of contraception? Contraception is a process of preventing the occurrence of pregnancy. And we have already learnt contraception is carried out by 3 methods: by the use of physical or mechanical barriers, use of chemical barriers, and surgical methods. Physical or mechanical barriers, that is use of either condoms during the sexual intercourse process, or use of IUDs, intrauterine devices. Already I have explained about it in previous classes. You can go through it, like a copper T. Right? So intrauterine device is copper T. Next, use of chemicals like drugs, some pills, which can alter the hormonal balance. The egg cell release, its fertilization, everything, they are under the control of hormones. If hormonal balance is altered, then egg cell cannot be released properly or fertilization may not take place properly. So use of chemicals like drugs to alter the hormonal balance, by which egg cell is not released or fertilization may not take place. Surgical methods, tubectomy and vasectomy. Tubectomy is carried out in females, wherein a block is created in the fallopian tube so that egg is not reaching the uterus. And vasectomy is the block is created in the vas deferens so that sperms are not released. So how the block is created either in fallopian tube or in vas deferens? By operation or surgery. So creating a block in fallopian tube in order to prevent the reaching of a egg cell by the uterus, okay, is known as tubectomy. which is a permanent method, permanent contraception method. Generally, the people who don't want to have children, okay, in them the woman will be getting done with this tubectomy. And vasectomy, it is carried out only in men. So the vas difference is blocked so that the sperms are not released out, right? How are the modes of reproduction different in unicellular and multicellular organisms? In unicellular organisms, reproduction is carried out generally by fission, binary fission and multiple fission. In yeast, by budding. It is also a part of binary fission only. In simple multicellular organisms, fragmentation and regeneration and sexual reproduction also are carried out. In complex multicellular organisms, sexual reproduction only is carried out. In unicellular organisms, there are no special organs for reproduction. Why? Because the entire organism itself, one cell. You cannot expect organs in single cell. Okay, whereas in multicellular organisms, specialized cells are present that can differentiate into all types of cells which are needed for the construction of whole organism. Right? These specialized cells for reproduction are present in special organs. Okay, and using these specialized cells getting produced by the special organs, the reproduction is carried out in multicellular organisms, whereas in unicellular organisms, only by means of fission method, the reproduction is carried out. 10th question. How does reproduction help in providing stability to population of a species? By the process of reproduction, new organisms are formed which keep getting new and old accumulated variations. Means the new organisms get new variations as well as old accumulated variations also. With all these variations, these new organisms can survive even in changing environmental conditions of their surroundings. Thus, a stability of population is maintained. Okay, the organism, the species is maintained on the earth. What could be the reasons for adopting contraceptive methods? Contraceptive methods are adopted, we already have discussed, to avoid unwanted pregnancy, this is number one, to maintain a gap between the birth of one child and the next child, and to control population. If contraceptive methods are not used, especially by village people, okay, they keep on producing the new offspring with which the population will increase enormously. If contraceptive method is followed, okay, then population, the number of population, means the total number of population will be kept under control. This is the main essence for which contraceptive methods are followed.